Mark, tell us a little bit about how do you expect tonight's kickoff to set the tone for this week's Democratic National Convention and the election?
Yeah, the major themes that the Democrats are going to try to hammer home tonight are talking about racial justice, and that's after the death and killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. They're going to actually try to portray themselves as having a very big tent featuring several Republican speakers, including former Ohio Governor John Kasich. But maybe most of all, they're going to be talking a whole lot about the coronavirus and featuring people like New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, as well as Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and being able to really highlight what a Biden administration would do differently than the Trump administration on a topic where the president has not been getting good grades on his handling of the coronavirus. And so those on the very first night for the Democrats seem to be the objectives from the speakers and the themes that they've presented.
And of course, because of the coronavirus, the convention will be virtual this year. So will the Democrats be able to engage the audience and energize those potential voters more than they might have done at a physical event?
Yeah, it's going to be a really big trick for them. And of course, had the coronavirus not existed, you would have had thousands of journalists, including people like you and me, who would be in Milwaukee covering this. It would probably even be a greater media presence. But I think the Biden campaign is hopeful that there are going to be a lot of people at home. They're going to be watching TV that have actually less to do, and maybe a more captive audience to be able to watch and listen for a message. However, when you end up looking at the polling that NBC News and the Wall Street Journal have conducted, my organization, it is a lot of people have already made up their minds. There are an important sliver of undecided voters that are still up for grabs, but most people have decided. And I think that the objective for the Biden campaign is that those sliver of undecided voters who might be tuning in to make the best presentation possible to them.
And let's talk about those poll results. According to those results from the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that was released just yesterday, more than 60% of voters say that America's response to the coronavirus has been unsuccessful, and just 1 in 5 believe the U.S. economy is on solid footing. In that same poll, what other issues are top of voters' minds for this election, and which ones will the Democrats be pushing?
Yeah, so our poll found that the economy is still number one when voters are asked to talk about the 1 or 2 most important issues that might decide their vote. But after the economy, you end up having a tight competition between the coronavirus, on healthcare. And so, those I actually think are going to be all the themes that you're going to be hearing from Democrats tonight and throughout the rest of the week. Our poll also did show that President Trump does have the advantage on who would better handle the economy than Joe Biden. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Democrats trying to make up a little ground there, talking about his economic vision and what he would actually do differently when it comes to the economy.
Now, Joe Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris, has spent almost a week in the spotlight now. So how are voters responding to her as our possible vice president?
Yeah, our NBC News Wall Street Journal poll found her with a net positive rating, that were there more people held her in a positive light than a negative light. And in fact, among all the people that our poll ended up measuring, she was the second most popular person behind Barack Obama, who will also be speaking on Wednesday night at the Democratic Convention along with Kamala Harris. So far, it's probably been a pretty good rollout. But the other finding in our poll is that this really breaks along party lines. Democrats and Biden voters were very enthusiastic about her. Republican voters, Trump voters, much less so. So those same kind of partisan divides showing up when it comes to her pick.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you for having me.